This is rental car number 162, and this is the 2020 Chevy Bolt Premier. Going to take this out for a test drive. We'll start with acceleration, both from a dead stop and while moving. We'll look at handling, cabin noise, all the cool parking technology on this one, and then we'll take it out on the highway and get it up to about 80, 90 miles an hour and have some real fun. All right, let's jump in. So let's start with acceleration. I am at a dead stop. Are you ready for this? 3, 2, 1. 15, 20, 30, 40, 50. Whew, that is smooth. So that was acceleration in normal driving mode. There's also a sport mode on this vehicle. So let me set up and let's do that again and see if we can tell a big difference. All right, around the same spot. I'm gonna bring it to a full stop. I'm gonna put us in sport mode. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Whew. I can tell a difference. It's a little peppier. When I've driven this thing around the last day or so, I've been keeping it in sport just because it's a lot more fun. But it is nice to have different drive modes, especially because it's an electric, and if you want to conserve energy, it's nice that you can take the power away a little bit just so you don't use up all of the battery life all at the same time. One other thing I like to look at with acceleration is acceleration while moving. So while we're going 30 miles or so, if we need an instant burst of speed, what's it like? So let me throw a quick U-turn. We can check out the turning radius really quick. Oh, that was a piece of cake. It didn't drift out of the lane at all. Let me get up to speed, so, you know, like 30, 35-ish. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna punch the accelerator and see how quickly we get some speed. So we're actually at 40 right now, going a little faster than I thought. All right, are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It is instantaneous. I mean, I'm not even fully pushing down on the pedal and we are already rocketing forward. It's like, it's an instant burst of speed. Oh my goodness. That's one thing I just love about electric cars, that the torque is just always there for you. You don't have to wait. You know, in a normal sedan with a gas-powered engine, when you press the accelerator, on the good ones, there's maybe a heartbeat or two before you feel that engine just pull you forward. But on an electric, especially on this electric in sport mode, man, the moment you push that accelerator down a millimeter, you are getting speed, which just makes the driving experience, makes it so much more fun. All right, since we're tooling around and we're going at about 40, let me try out handing a little bit. What I like to do is see how close I can keep the crease between the blacktop and the curb without starting to feel uncomfortable or getting dangerously close to hitting the curb. And with this one, I mean, we're going almost 40 miles an hour right now. It is effortless to keep that crease. Probably has a little bit to do with the size of the vehicle, but handling is just, it's so tight, and that's my personal preference. I like when I have to give the steering wheel a little bit of muscle to make it move, and that when I do move that steering wheel, I am controlling the vehicle instantaneously. And I know that might sound weird, but not all cars are like that. Some are much, much looser, so that you have to give the steering wheel a lot more of a turn before you see the car do anything. And not with the Bolt. It's extremely tight, which makes handling a lot of fun because I can hug this crease really, really easily. And these curves feel like nothing. In a lot of sedans, you know, 40 is the point where I start to feel really uncomfortable driving down this street. But on this, I think I could probably go 50 or 60. I'm not gonna, because it's a brand new car and I'm not gonna crash it. But it's just nice to know that handling is pretty solid on this vehicle. Now, another thing that I really like about electric cars in general, and especially the Bolt, is that you do have one pedal driving available to you. At any time, when you're moving or when you're stopped, you can push the gear shift into low. So that's the L you see down here. And then you're using what's known as one pedal driving. This means that when you push down the accelerator, obviously you're going to move forward at a quicker speed, but when you start to lift your foot off the accelerator, the electric motor is going to use the regenerative braking, grab some of that energy back, apply it to the battery, and slow you down. So that means that you really never have to use the brake pedal unless you need to brake, you know, really, really quickly. I commuted to and from my job in Chicago over this week in this vehicle, and in normal traffic, whether it's going really quick or it's stop and go, I never touch the brake pedal on my entire commute home. And maybe that seems like a small thing to you, but it makes the whole commuting process just so much more enjoyable. So let me give you a quick taste. So you see we got a red light up ahead. I am not gonna touch the brake pedal. Right now what I'm doing is I'm slowly lifting my foot off the accelerator, still giving it about a centimeter or two, and now I'm pulling my foot all the way off the accelerator, and we kind of coast to a stop. I mean, there's not that much coasting, so you're not stopping on a dime, right? You do have to get kind of a feel for it, so that you know where you're going to stop. But I'd say after a couple of minutes, I'm doing it again, by the way, it's pretty easy, and it makes the driving experience a lot more enjoyable just because you don't have to shift your foot back and forth, back and forth. Also, there's a pedal on the left side of the steering wheel, I guess I should say a paddle, that you can press to also activate the regenerative braking at any time, and this is a little bit more aggressive. So let me do it right now. So we're coming up on a turn up here on the right hand side, and right now I'm going to push the pedal, and now we're using the regenerative braking to slow the vehicle, and then I can go into the turn. It's actually pretty nice. I find myself liking one pedal driving more than this, but if you're in normal driving mode, let me switch us back, and you want to use regenerative braking, you can just push the paddle, I should say, and bring the car to a stop, gain some more energy so that you you know, don't have too much range anxiety, and just use the vehicle in a different way. I like this, that there's multiple ways to interact with the car, multiple ways to conserve energy, and it just makes the driving experience a little bit more enjoyable because you can switch things up a little bit. All right, so while we're in this parking lot right here, let me show you a little bit about the cameras on this vehicle, because it is pretty nice how many views you have out the exterior. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop now, and I'm going to throw the vehicle into reverse. And you'll see that up here we have two camera displays coming up. We have an overhead view of the vehicle itself, and then we have a rear view showing us behind the vehicle with some guides. And those guides do move as you manipulate the steering wheel so that you can see exactly where you're going. Now, obviously we don't have a drone shooting down overhead of the vehicle. This is just a composite of all the cameras. So the computer is stitching them together and then showing you what's around the vehicle. And this, I gotta say, is wonderful when you're trying to park in a tight spot, especially when you're in a position like I am, where this is a brand new vehicle and you're not completely comfortable parking it yet. And you also have other camera views, which I think is great. So let me just cycle through a few of those. So we can press this button right here. We can see a kind of a close-up directly behind the vehicle. Press it again, we can see a close-up ahead of the vehicle. And we can also see, with this button, along either side of the vehicle. So down the center is actually a split. The car is actually right here, but the camera view, this is out the left side, kind of peeking over the tire, and this is out the right side, peeking over the tire. And it's just wonderful when you're trying to manipulate the car into a smaller space. And then you can press the button on the far right-hand side to take away that overhead shot if you want a wider view. And I gotta say, for a car at this price point, I'm pretty impressed with the screen resolution. Can you see the trees over here? You can see the leaves moving in the wind. You can clearly see what's behind us. I mean, you can even see the grass kind of moving with the wind. That's not true on all the displays out there. A lot of them, the resolution is, I mean, it's usable, but it's not crisp and beautiful like this one. So all in all, I'm really impressed with this thing quite a bit, and I found it really useful. So another thing we should talk about is cabin noise, and that's where I think this car really, really excels. If you haven't noticed, the engine is almost completely silent, which takes a lot getting used to, because I'm used to hearing a little bit of a rumble to let me know that the vehicle is on. But in this one, I mean, unless you're accelerating really aggressively, you hear that little bit of a whine, you're not going to hear the engine at all. And the wind really isn't that noticeable either. I'm going about, well, let's see, 37 right now through these corners. Let me be quiet for a second and just listen to hear if you can hear the wind. I mean, so it's there a little bit, but it's certainly not obnoxious. And in my experience at this price point, this is pretty exceptional. Usually I hear a lot more wind than this, kind of going around the vehicle as I'm driving at this speed. But let's finish things up by taking it on the highway so you can get a better kind of feel for what cabin noise is like at a higher speed, and so we can test out acceleration and handling, you know, at that 70 to 80 mile an hour kind of range. All right, so we're about to get on the highway. We do have a vehicle behind us, and I like to go to a complete stop when I get on the highway so I can really test out acceleration. So I'm gonna be pretty quick about this. All right, we're through the toll. I'm gonna hit the actual brake pedal. We're at a full stop. Ready? Here we go. We're in sport mode, by the way. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. Okay, let's slow down a little bit. No speeding tickets this morning. I gotta be honest with you, I'm not flooring it completely. Pretty close, but that's quite a bit of power for a tiny little hatchback. I gotta say, I'm pretty happy with it. Handling at this speed is pretty decent too. Let me switch lanes real quick. I have someone in my blind spot right now, so let this pickup truck get by. And then we're gonna go around him and see if we can kind of accelerate all the way around. Here we go, ready? So a little bit of a lane change, 2 over. Oh, that feels smooth. And then let's give it a little bit of a punch. See if we can go faster. All right, 80, 90, woo, 92. Got a little bit of a warning up here on the gauge cluster that I was going too fast. Not a fan of that kind of nanny technology. I mean, if I want to speed, I'm going to speed, but I just kind of want to let you know what the vehicle's doing. So we're at 80 right now, and I have to be honest, I feel like the vehicle could go a lot faster. It's not shaking at all. It's handling still just like it was before. I mean, changing lanes at 80 miles an hour feels very stable and almost effortless. I certainly feel like I'm in complete control, and that I could go a lot faster if I wanted to. All right, so let's play around with cruise control real quick. There's a couple of technologies I just want to show you really fast. So I'm going to turn on cruise, and I'm going to set it at the speed we're going, which is 65 miles an hour right now. So obviously, you've probably used cruise control before. It's going to keep the vehicle at a constant speed. But we have 2 additional technologies that we can use on this one. So we can also use lane departure assistant. So it's going to sense the lanes in the road, and watch, as I get over, it's going to push me back into the lane. You see how I kind of drifted a little too much? It's going to keep me between these 2 white lines. The technology on this vehicle is okay. I've driven several others, Tesla and Nissan come to mind, where the technology just works better. So in this one, it kind of bounces you back and forth. In those vehicles, it'll keep you right in the dead center of the lane, and will actually steer you through small, gentle curves. This one won't do that, but this is nice because when you're on a long road trip, you can pretty much guarantee that if you're on a highway with well-defined lines, that you don't have to worry about drifting out, because the vehicle will take over for you and handle that. The second technology is adaptive cruise. And what that means is that the vehicle is going to use sonar to detect the vehicle ahead of us, and if that vehicle slows down, then we're going to slow down as well automatically based on the computer on the car, and we'll match the speed of that vehicle. And that's wonderful because you can keep cruise on and know that even if traffic slows down a little bit, you're not going to have to take over and adjust things. The vehicle will do it for you. Both technologies are fantastic, but I have to be honest with you, I rarely use either one of them. It's just not part of my driving repertoire. You know, I'm doing a lot of commuting to the city and a lot of driving around in the suburbs, and it doesn't really fit well with either of those. The only place I see those technologies as being useful is on a really long road trip where you're kind of out away from the city and you know, on the highway kind of in the middle of nowhere, and you just need to relax a little bit more. So it's nice to be able to rely on both of those technologies when you're in that situation. All right, so the last thing we need to test out while we're on the highway is cabin noise. Now I'm going at about 64 miles an hour right now. It's a decent speed, not super fast. And you can definitely hear, you know, the vehicles passing by. We're gonna have a Cadillac come by in just a second. Let me be quiet. Right, so you can hear that. It's not obnoxiously loud, but you can also kind of hear the wind pushing over the vehicle as we're driving down the road. But all in all, I think this is pretty exceptional. I think what's really helping is that, you know, the engine on this vehicle is almost silent, so you're not getting that rumble that you usually would get from a gas-powered engine. Let me do one more thing. I'm going to turn on the radio real quick. So that was Adele, and that was with a volume of 12, which is extremely low. And I don't know about you listening over this camera, but I mean, I could hear her voice extremely clearly, and that's going down the highway at 70 miles an hour. A lot of vehicles at this price point that I drive, I do have to increase the volume. I mean, not ridiculously high, but you know, you have to give it a little bit of a bump up while you're driving at this speed, and you don't have to do that on this vehicle, which I think is a huge benefit, because I'm a big-time commuter, listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I like to be able to hear what's being said without having to listen to the volume at an obnoxious level. So, I mean, just another positive, I think, about the drivability of this vehicle. All right, so that's highway driving. I gotta say, I'm pleasantly surprised at how well the Bolt performs at higher speeds. I kind of thought, because it was a smaller vehicle, that you know, 70-ish would probably be its max comfortable speed for me, but that is not true at all. I find myself going 90 quite often, probably too often, but you know, hey, you gotta have some fun, right? Where I really do think this vehicle shines the most, though, is in your kind of daily driving around the suburbs and the city, not on a highway. It is just so much fun to use the one-pedal driving and to see yourself regaining energy as you're using that regenerative braking technology. And just one point of clarification on that regenerative braking technology. It does work at pretty much any drive mode. Well, not even pretty much, at any drive mode, right? If we're in normal drive mode, we will get some regenerative braking when we slow down. It's just that when you use the low mode with the one pedal driving or the paddle shifter on the side of the steering wheel, that's where you can really harness the full power of the technology, brake much more aggressively using it, and gain much more power back in the battery because of it. So, I don't know, for me, I like that. I like having options, I like playing around, and I like that kind of video game-esque experience. You know, because I'm doing the same trip over and over again, driving to work and back. And it's kind of cool to see if I can beat my best range and, you know, end up using less energy to get to work than I had the previous day. My best so far, and this is me bragging a little bit, is that I did the 30-mile commute to the city, and I only used 17 miles of range, which was pretty cool. All right, so that's pretty much everything I have to show you driving the Chevy Bolt. There's obviously an interior and a lot of other features that I want to show you. So I'll work on the full review and post it soon. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you'll join me again when I'm back renting and reviewing another rental car. I'll see you then.